Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. Hope you're having a terrific day. Let's just kick off some tunage because life, I tell you, good volume. Is that right? Is that overpowering? Is that too quiet? That is at 25. That way it gives me kind of a reference point when I listen to it back. I still feel like it's a little loud. How about 18? Is that too quiet? We'll give it a shot. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. So, I want to start this episode with acknowledgement on my end that I myself am a sinner, that I myself am an imperfect man, and I have a lot of work to be had. So, in no way, shape, or form am I showing up here today to cast stones at anyone in my life or to have other folks kind of have that outcome is to wanting to cast stones on anyone in their lives. It's not what we're trying to do here. What I'm trying to do in addressing some of these topics, because it's so crucial and it's so important, especially for folks struggling with Lyme disease, is to be able to properly acknowledge within people we interact with in this life so we can more so maneuver through this life with more healthy, more positive interactions with everyone in our lives. And unfortunately, with some of those individuals, I feel the only healthy relationship to be had, unfortunately, maybe for a duration, boundaries are not just necessary, they are crucial. So I'm going to do my best not to abuse, misuse, or overuse, which happens a lot nowadays. And it seems like the word narcissist just gets thrown out there nilly-willy quite a bit these days. And I've always had a general idea as to the definition, but let's do a deep dive because there's educated individuals and a lot of research that could be done on the psyche and psychological and potential impacts and what creates a narcissist. And I personally feel the more we can acknowledge and identify them, in fact, we could show up on behalf of certain individuals with a little more grace from a place of a little more love. And we must face one simple truth in the reality of these relations. No matter how much you love this individual, no matter how much you want to seek change within them to the betterment of even themselves and all the relationships involved, the reality of the situation is you cannot change them. You cannot. It is solely up to them. And unfortunately, it seems with a lot of the narcissistic traits, they're pretty well stuck. So we even have a clip that I want to play about how to deal with a narcissist from Dr. Phil, so to arm us in all sorts of ways for our own protection and for love for the other individual. And I like how he put it, how he's a hopeless, like optimist, almost like it's a condition. I like that outlook too, that no one's too far gone, that everyone could change. And I truly believe through seeking God, I mean, anyone truly walking in faith. Now, I'm not laying claim I'm one of those individuals. It's a constant work. And someone could be walking in that faith and then had these traits before and then, it just pops up. So it's a humanly flawed like forever work. But I truly do believe that if someone's walking in entirely in faith, naturally you would rule out all narcissistic behavior because you'd be walking in humility and in such a place of love for other individuals. You would have the proper empathy and all the tools and skills at your disposal that you'd rule that out. So I guess in a sense, right out the gate, for those that feel they have some of these narcissistic traits that we have yet to really go over, I believe that's the number one solution for those individuals, but they gotta want it. They have to seek that for themselves. All right, that all being said, let's see. Should I even just do a screen share? Why not? Why freaking not? So there are so many web pages, so many sources you could go to. This one seemed to be pretty decent. All right, let's go ahead and kill the tunage. Right here on WebMD, I believe gives us a pretty good view on it as a whole. And I truly believe this is an important educational topic to really dive into. I think it could improve all of our lives. Most importantly, for all of us to look inwardly. That's like my biggest call to action with today's episode. And not lie to yourself and essentially see if you have any of these traits and there's things you can improve upon with this. Now, it's really sad because it seems like those that want to show up in vulnerable states of love and vulnerability, narcissists really take advantage of that. And it's unfortunate. All right, I'm simply talking too much. Let's go ahead and read some of this definition here. So, narcissism, symptoms and signs. Narcissism is an extreme self involvement to a degree that it makes a person ignore the needs of those around them. Kind of sums it up all right there. That they're extremely self-centered and extremely self-serving. While everyone may show occasional narcissistic behavior, true narcissists frequently disregard others or their feelings. They also do not understand the effect that their behavior has on other people. I mean, my heart goes out. I pray in this moment that we all seek our loving creator because we're all defective and we all have work to do. And at times we all become very self-serving. Once again, not here to cast stones, but it's also important that we're once again able to acknowledge individuals that are just continually acting out on this behavior. And there's some pretty powerful things in here. And stay tuned. I know I'm not the best at reading here, but the clip we have with Dr. Phil is powerful. And there's a whole bunch, come to find out. He's got a whole almost trilogy on how to deal with narcissists. So there's just a lot of information out there to tap into, but it can lead to a very abusive, manipulative relationship. And there's things we could do where we're not entirely victim of situations. And more importantly, I feel walking through each and every day with all these anchors or believing the lies or manipulation of these individuals. It is important to note that narcissism is a trait, but it also can be part of a larger personality disorder. Not every narcissist has narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, as narcissism is a spectrum. There does seem to be a spectrum to it. I know for a fact I acted out within that spectrum to a larger degree when I was really struggling or when I was lost in the woods and I haven't built that relation with our creator and I had addictions in my life. I definitely carried out a lot of this. I'm pleased to report that I've greatly improved upon it. However, it's a forever work. I am not completely immune to, you know, repeating or reacting poorly in situations. People who are at the highest end of the spectrum are those that are classified as NPD. But others still with narcissistic traits may fall on the lower end of the spectrum. Man, it says narcissist a lot in here. The cause of narcissism isn't, I'll say, quite known, but it can be linked to your environment. Your parents may have given you either too much adoration or too much criticism that didn't match your actual experiences and achievements. Kind of makes sense. Kind of fed an entitlement, right? Genetics. Narcissism may be linked to your inherited characteristics, including certain personality traits. I even want to push back on genetics a little bit because it's even let me go back in time to when I was getting IVs in that clinic and I was surrounded by cancer patients. I remember one lovely individual talking out on genetics and how even scientifically it's not so much about genetics. They just did a continuum of their parents with their family, their parents, the same lifestyle, the same food, just everything. They continued that. So if their parents dealt with cancer, futuristically, more than likely, they were dealing with cancer. Well, it's been said that we all actually have cancer within our bodies. It's just, are we allowing it to flourish or feeding our bodies in a way to where cancer can't essentially rule the day? So, genetics, I want to push back because I personally do believe that if we break the cycle and we change what we eat regarding even cancer, that we won't end up genetically like the history of our bloodline, if you will. And I believe that same stuff applies to behavior traits. But behavior traits are some of the more challenging and some of the hardest things to face and actually change. Most people seem to not want to do that work or acknowledge it, especially this particular trait. Neurobiology. This is the connection between your brain, behavior, and thinking. So there could be something to that. Do I feel, shoot, let me go back to head traumas. Our bodies, yes, vulnerable, yes, flawed, are very resilient. And even after head trauma, I know I've reconnected a lot of the neurobiology, if you will, of my own brain and really fired things up. So we could do things to essentially rewire our brain 100%. People who show signs of narcissism can often be very charming and charismatic. They often do not show negative behavior right away, especially in relationships. People who show narcissism often like to surround themselves with people who feed into their ego. They build relationships to reinforce their ideas about themselves, even if these relationships are superficial. Wow. It's kind of deep. Now, I pause this little clip here. It had a little video because I didn't know this. They stated the word comes from an ancient Greek myth. A boy named Narcissus falls in love with his reflection. Wow. Once again, that kind of sums it up. They are the center of the world, falls in love with his reflection. There are two types of narcissism that narcissistic behavior can fall under. The two types can have common traits but come from different childhood experiences. The two types also dictate the different ways people will behave in relationships. Grandiose narcissism. People with this behavior more than likely treated as if they were superior or above others during childhood. These expectations can follow them as they become adults. They tend to brag and be elitist. Kind of entitlement. Those with grandiose narcissism are aggressive, dominant, and exaggerate their importance. They are very self-confident and are sensitive. Vulnerable narcissism. This behavior is usually the result of a childhood neglect or abuse. People with this behavior are much more sensitive. Narcissistic behavior helps to protect them against feeling inadequate. Even though they go between feeling inferior and superior to others, they feel offended or anxious when others don't treat them as if they were special. Wow, both of these seem to just at the core have some pretty profound insecurity that just I feel needs to be addressed. But once again, we can't instill that change in anybody, nor should we be allowed to. Everyone's experience here is uniquely theirs, and it's their choice. And it's your choice as to whether you can maintain a healthy relation with that individual or not. Goes into some of the signs of narcissism. Narcissism is still being studied and explored since many people with these disorders don't seek treatment. I'm going to skip over the narcissist, the word, because it's in here so much, and I'm even getting tongue-tied. It's in here so much. But there are some common traits of people with behavior that you may be able to spot. Sense of entitlement. A common sign of people with narcissism is the belief that they are superior to others and deserve special treatment. They believe that others should be obedient to their wishes and that the rules don't apply to them. I also want to add that their own rules don't apply to them. Manipulative behavior. This is a big one. Another common trait of narcissism is manipulative or controlling behavior. A narcissist will at first try to please you and impress you, but eventually their own needs will always come first. It's a pretty tall tale sign right there. When relating to other people, narcissists will try to keep people at a certain distance in order to maintain control. They may even exploit others to gain something for themselves. I mean, anonymity is key, right? Once again, not here to cast stones, but there's multiple situations throughout my life that comes to mind. But more important, once again, let's try to hone in on when we were that individual. And we could really do that work. I know we can. We can kind of rule this out of our subconscious. We could rule this out of our instant reactive in these situations. At this point, I would like to even state, for folks that are dealing with Lyme disease, it's no joke. And so many other, let's just say, so many other illnesses, depression. In a way, I find it that individuals that are suffering from something, it's even more crucial and important that they understand this, because I know in my battle with Lyme, at times, literally, it would seem as though some of the relations in my life became more damning, more difficult, more challenging than the actual disease itself that I was dealing with, that was ravishing my body, my mind, and threatening my very existence. So it is really important that we gain more insight on this. We can give more grace to individuals, but we also could establish those healthy boundaries to ensure we're not getting dragged down to the depths of hell and it magnifying the illness we are struggling with, because it shouldn't. No relationship should exceed a life threatening disease. So a lot of this is on us to not allow it to be that. So we could have our priorities in proper order. In disease is obviously, it should be above those challenging relations. And that's where awareness on so many of these diseases is so crucial. So more people understand. But there really is a difference. You could show up with good intention and out of love for one individual and still have a negative outcome, a negative impact. It is crucial that we're educated well enough to show up in that out of love, but have a positive impact, a positive outcome, especially for those that are already suffering from some illness. But if we could grasp this, even taking away the illness, and we just show up more in effective ways for those we love, we really could just enhance everyone's experience in this life. Why not? What would keep us from doing that? Our own insecurities, afraid of our own being vulnerable. Okay, then maybe we just admitted that there's some self work to be had to start walking in that type of light. It is crazy. The world would have us all be narcissists and develop this type of behavior because they don't want us united. The globalists, the elites, they don't. They don't want us to master this and master communication. The art of communication, my gosh, I believe at the root of really being good communicator, really like the foundational stone to that is humility. It's just gotta be. And it's all of God's teachings. So I suppose, sure, they're narcissistic Christians. Absolutely. Absolutely. We all must humble ourselves more. But without God, where does the moral compass come from? How could one really master this without Him? To entirely rule this out, I believe you have to integrate God. That's just my feeling. All right, where do we leave off? Need for admiration. One of the most common signs of a narcissist is a constant need for praise and admiration. People with this behavior need to feel validation from others and often brag or exaggerate their accomplishments for recognition. They also like to feel appreciated to boost their ego. Man, that's not a good one. Frick ego, frick pride. We need to kick that in the face each and every single day. Evil wants us to have an ego. Evil wants us to be prideful. It's not good. Wow, this is a big one. Lack of empathy. Lack of empathy is another sign of narcissism. This means that the narcissist is unwilling or unable to empathize with the needs, wants, or feelings of other people. This also makes it difficult for them to take responsibility for their own behavior. That really makes sense. Always pointing the finger. Even their wrong is your fault. Arrogance. People with narcissistic behavior already see themselves as superior to others, so they may become rude or abusive when they don't receive the treatment they think they deserve. While they hold themselves superior, they may speak or act rudely toward those that they deem are inferior. Other signs include a sense of self importance, exaggerating their own achievement. Yep, kind of gone over that. A preoccupation with fantasies of success, power, or brilliance. A belief that they're more special or unique than others and should only associate with other high status individuals, people. Envy of others or the belief that others are envious of them. Insisting that they have the best of everything, feeling they deserve privileges and special treatment. All right, here we go. How to deal with a narcissist. With the right treatment, some narcissists can learn how to recognize. And that's where it's so important. That acknowledgement. If you can't acknowledge, like, where there's no starting place other than humbling yourself and acknowledging the folly of your ways, right? Recognize their behavior. This can improve their lives and the lives of those around them. But narcissists often don't seek help because it doesn't fit the image that they have of themselves. They may need encouragement to get professional help. Once again, I personally feel there's no better counselor than our Lord Jesus Christ and the example he gave all of us and our loving Creator. But obviously, there's some individuals in this life that are pretty well equipped, pretty educated, that could lead to help. Once again, this kind of boils back to a lot of things like if you're poisoning your brain, it's going to make it hard to acknowledge if you're eating poisonous food, McDonald's, fast food chains, anything Black Rock. You're getting every jab. You have mold in your body. You have a disease in your body. You have parasites in your body. It's why I feel it's so important to improve oneself. It encompasses you got to encompass everything, like the physical, your emotional, your spiritual, but you got to balance your nutrition, your hormones. You got to do parasite cleanses, detoxing the body, mold tests. That's why I love the infrared sauna blanket. In fact, as I am up here in the colder weather, I'm not getting as much of a sweat on as I did down in the valley. So it's important that I start integrating, even though I feel I'm not in as toxic of an environment, but I need to start integrating more of the infrared sauna blanket. So Bond Charge, I'm extremely grateful for that affiliation and the fact you guys can all get 15% off all their products. Check out their infrared sauna blanket. Just click the link in the description. It's crucial. I mean, it boils down to kind of, do you value this existence? Do you want to become the best version of yourself? Because it blows my mind. It's ludicrous to me that it isn't standard practice here in America that we're doing annual parasite cleanses and we're doing these things to eradicate and just give us the best opportunity we have to become the best version of ourselves. Then I believe we're ruling out a lot of things. And I think it would just be at that point a lot easier to acknowledge and recognize and really gain that resilience to rule out these type of behavior traits and see the bigger picture. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you may be able to change your dynamic in the relationship. It may be possible to change the way your partner looks at you to help lessen the effects of their narcissistic behavior. If you recognize narcissism in yourself, you can learn to have more self compassion. This means treating yourself with kindness instead of comparing yourself to others. This can lower your need for praise and recognition. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, try these 3 steps. Educate yourself. See, right there. That's what we're just trying to dive into. Because I genuinely want to see improvement in all our communication and all of our relations across the board. That is the intent here. And education is key. I love Socrates saying there is one good knowledge and one evil ignorance. So let's not be ignorant about our relationships and where we stand and what we could do, right? So find out more and help you understand the narcissistic strengths and weaknesses and learn how to handle them better. Knowing how they are may also allow you to accept the situation for what it is and have realistic expectations. Creating boundaries. Be clear about your boundaries. It may upset or disappoint the narcissist, but that is okay. Remember, it is not your job to control that person's emotions. We can't control anyone, nor should we want to. I feel that that in and of itself is a narcissistic trait. Speak up for yourself. When you need something, be clear and concise. Watch your wording. Narcissists don't take constructive criticism well. Try to make comments in careful, positive ways. I fail at dealing with a lot of individuals with these traits. I could do better. But then again, in a sense, I don't want to walk on eggshells. So you really got to determine whether or not and seek prayer, whether or not you have the proper tools to stay in a healthy enough place to have this type of individual in your life. Because you may or you may not, or you may need to work on it and acquire more of those tools to keep it healthy. Because at any of these relations start putting you into a place of depression or abuse or even suicidal tendencies, boundaries are key. Stay calm. Try not to react if they try to pick a fight or gaslight you, making you doubt your own reality. You can't allow that. You got to see past the gaslighting. If they lash out, think of them as a 3-year-old who feels rejected because their parent sets a bedtime. Now, that may seem degrading, but it literally can be a mindset that helps in a tough one to accomplish effectively. Create a support system. I find this pretty important. Living with a narcissist can lead to feelings of insecurity, confusion, and self doubt. Make sure you have a core group of people in your life to support you. Bring in a counselor. Therapy won't cure your partner, but it may help you work certain things out. A counselor can show you ways to approach problems solving with the narcissist. Yeah, because I've been there at times where it's the world. It's not me, it's the world. So you can end up abusive in those situations. But the point you actually sit in front of a stranger and a counselor and a professional, potentially someone, maybe there's a minor amount of respect from this individual and they're pointing it out. Oh, it can't be the whole world, right? So it might get through to them, but they got to be open to it. Certain things may trigger problems. Certain things may trigger problems with a narcissist. It's best to not do. Argue or confront. Guilty. Try not to confront a narcissist directly. As difficult as it may be to constantly tiptoe around them, it can be bad. Man, I feel no one should be walking on eggshells in this life. And you find yourself in a situation like that. I mean, if you got that much clarity and patience and love and you're entirely accepting, then you got some gifts I need to acquire and work on. That's all. As I said, guilty. My patience only goes so far, and it can be a lost cause. It doesn't matter how much you love the individual, you want to like work through it. And it's almost one of them situations. The more you try, the worse it gets. So I think that's where it just boils back to healthy boundaries. Personally, they like to have control and often fear losing it. Efforts to lead or instruct them will often fail. Yes, so true. Expect them to see your point of view. They don't like to admit when they're wrong. We got to let that absorb. They don't like, some just blatantly won't, because they're not the problem. Even if they were and they messed up, you're the problem. So trying to make them see things your way can backfire. Oh boy. Expect deep, meaningful communication. They have very little empathy. So honest, heartfelt communication often doesn't get through and can even create an angry outburst or shutdown response. I'd even add to that, because I've leveled myself at times. Like, you know what? I could have done things in a better way. I apologize. That's on me. And show up and acknowledge them and, okay, seek clarification. With a non-narcissistic individual, they'll level with you, they'll reason with you. It gets diffused. But I've noticed with a higher level narcissist, they love that. They will take advantage of that. They will beat you down even further. And that's, to me, an indicator of someone that is unwilling to do that self-work and resorts to healthy boundaries. Go over past issues. Don't try to make them see a long line of behavior dating back years or how they're just like their father. For example, we'll end on this page with this statement. People with narcissistic personality disorder, which I believe to be on the higher end of the spectrum, usually do not change. So keep that in mind. Even if you learn to manage your relationship better, it probably won't ever be a healthy relationship. Well, for me, it does kind of boil back to, in a way, feeling like an incurable optimist. And I do feel we could. Everyone could change. You could do your best to plant seeds. You could do your best to lead by example. But it really just does boil down to individual accountability and self-work. I just want to express gratitude to God. He slapped me upside the head so good in my life in such a loving way because I was so stubborn. I was a lot of these things. And, to this day, once again, I'm not perfect, but what an awakening. The actual peace and love I feel now, I could have spent a lifetime educating myself, getting all these degrees, understanding more psychological behaviors and diagnoses and I barely would have moved the needle on this existence. Even a whole life filled with writing books, reading books. But when you humble yourself before God, He truly has a way of blessing you. And some of them blessings may come with some hardships and some more, let's just say, educational life experiences. But you start to see the challenges almost, in a sense, like with excitement, and see them as opportunity to grow. I hope we all could achieve more of that. We definitely Need it. Okay, I apologize. That was a long read. Let's go ahead and play this clip from Dr. Phil. Now, there truly is endless sources you could go to. There's so much information. Dr. Phil, why Dr. Phil? He even questionably, in my eyes, might have even been part of, because he's been on television, obviously, as we all know, for so long, that I'm like, well, he's more than likely corrupt, like the majority of them. But he's, I don't know, for lack of better words, gained some of my trust. I feel even better put, I just am grateful for some of the exposure and some of the content he's recently got involved in, like regarding the border and human trafficking and a whole bunch of topics. I mean, even how he exposed how much land China was buying up and how it's strategically buy all of these military installments and bases. So he's been exposing great things. So I have no problem plugging him. It's one of those things I guess we'll see really with time if he continues doing what he's doing. In a way, I have some gratitude for him and some of the topics he's addressed because they go against the mainstream narrative. That being said, let's go ahead and play this clip.
How do you deal with these people? How do you live with these people? How do you get along with these people? And how do you recognize if you actually have one of these people in your life? I recommend that you don't try and fix a narcissist. I've made stabs at that. I've made efforts at that. When I was a young lion and was going to heal the world, I'd take on whatever. It's above your pay grade.
Wow. When he was a young lion and could take on the world, he's recommending you cannot change them. Wow.
You're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
Now, there are those that believe that you're not going to change a narcissist no matter what you do. And people ask me, well, why not? Can't anybody learn to change? And sure, in theory, anybody can learn to change. People ask me where these folks come from. Why does somebody turn out to be a narcissist and somebody else doesn't? And isn't it true if you kind of know that, then maybe you know where to start working on them to change them? Nobody really knows where this comes from. I'll tell you what some of the primary theories are. Maybe it'll give you some insight to excuse yourself from feeling responsible for fixing it. You know, people ask, is this something genetic? Is it environmental? I think the research is very ambiguous, but I think most people would agree that it's a learned behavior. Most people would agree that they come from the extremes of parenting. They either had a parent that was way overprotective and, you know, carried the kid around on a satin pillow and made the child believe that they were entitled by turning him into spoiled brats. And I always say, we're not raising children, we're raising adults.
True.
And so whatever you do with your child, that's what you're creating as an adult. So I said the extremes of parenting. One is you've treated your child in such a way that they become a spoiled brat child, so they become a spoiled brat adult. And the other extreme of parenting, of course, is if they've been neglected or abused. And so this is a reaction of, I'm going to be so arrogant. It's kind of a get them before they get me strategy in life where they just become so self-protective by being arrogant and haughty and entitled that nobody's ever going to do that to me again because I'm going to put myself above everybody so I can't be hurt. I'm going to fly above the crowd where I can't be hurt.
Wow. It's insecurities. I believe that's the root of it. Insecurity is so strong that they'll just build up a facade in this image in their own mind, feeding into pride and ego that won't even allow them to address the behavior traits and the actual negative impacts it's having. I want to inject that once again, and we've said it many times on this platform, that the globalists, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, his puppet Harari, stating that they now have the technology to control the masses, that humans are now hackable animals. So I don't want to rule out. That's why it's so crucial. We get a healthy mind, a healthy spirit. We detoxify because it's not just the food, it's the air, it's the water, it's the fluoride, it's the drugs, it's pharma, it's the inoculations. And then it's kind of like these generational curses. We got to rise above these generational curses and stop them. We all have the opportunity to break that cycle. We do. And once again, that leads to some of the toughest work on oneself and acknowledging the family environment, the wiring, just all the impacts you had, I believe at a very young age, that truly does carry out through our life. And I pointed the finger at family for so long. Personally, I'd like to publicly apologize from the bottom of my heart. So many of us, like, I have great loving parents, and I know they truly did the best they could, 100%, with what they had. No one's perfect. And I'm over it. I'm completely over it. It feels so good. For the longest time, I was still seeking like validation to an extent. For the longest time, I wanted to see full change. And there's been an extreme growth that I'm striving to gain. Such great examples, such loving people. But I wanted to reassurance to gain like that trust back on this personal level. I was getting in my own way. And I'm so grateful because once again, the only way I got to this place of none of that even matters. I could see we've all been doing the best we can. I'm grateful for my parents. Sure, if some people had it better, yeah. If people had it worse, absolutely. And it's interesting, no matter what situation you come from, we can somehow, the choice becomes ours. Is whether we want to allow that to haunt us for the rest of our life, or we want to free ourselves from those anchors and actually experience like true forgiveness and just being free, being entirely free, and now open to having true, pure love bonds with individuals that may have intentionally or unintentionally harmed you even in the past. Once again, all glory to God. Let's continue.
These are theories. I'm not presenting this to you as fact. I'm telling you what psychodynamicists say when they say, look at the parents if you want to understand why somebody turns out the way they do as an adult. Now, does that make it easier for you to suffer these people or not? Maybe it does. If you are not that way and you have empathy, maybe understanding it gives you a little bit of staying power. But as I said before, I'm one of those people that thinks anybody can change. I'm the incurable optimist, but these are people that just don't have a good prognosis. There's some mental illness problems that have good prognosis, like phobias.
Once again, I want to challenge the medical diagnoses and push against Western medicine. Whoa, mental illness lead folk to seek solutions with SSRIs, big pharma. I don't view that as solutions at all. I truly don't. I believe they've gotten so far away from health and wellness, and it's all about the money, that I would exhaust personally every other option there is, which there's a lot of natural remedies deep dives, real things to be had. I even find life hacks to be extremely powerful if you did them in repetition and things of that nature, where you start taking cold showers, you started grounding, getting in the sun. You genuinely, and I know we went over it with nutrition and all these things that eradicate all that, and now see where you're at. We have been poisoning ourselves. I can't emphasize enough, when you pay attention to those things, it's not even sacrifice to cut out your donuts. I used to love donuts. I like the image of a donut. I can imagine the taste of one, but no, I'm not interested at all. There may be, I think Intentional Food makes, and they're such a great establishment, family owned. I'd love to have them on. Sorry, side note. But I can't remember. There's just like gluten free. Is it made with no sugar? I can't recall. Like, how do you make a donut without sugar? Anyway, we're kind of getting off topic here, but this is the only life you have in this mortal experience, as far as we know. It's time to take it serious. There is a reason as to why so many of our ingredients and so much of our food is illegal in so many other countries. It's illegal. Those substances are considered poison and carcinogenic, and we can't even imagine the neurological day-to-day impacts it's actually having. Why aren't we taking that more serious? Why are we not taking, a parasite cleanse more serious? These are tangible, affordable things we could do that could have such grave impact. I believe now, coupled with someone seeking meaning and purpose in the why we're here, God's waiting for you to open that door and He'll answer. I believe narcissist, like, it'll just be washed away. Because once again, I was looked at as a mental disorder with Lyme disease. I was the problem to so many people for the majority of my life. But I could see back now, and that's where my heart goes out to individuals that struggle with Lyme so deeply. So couldn't you potentially have Lyme if you're a narcissist? Couldn't, or something else? But my heart goes out to them because they so often are made out to be the problem. And I was just speaking to a lovely woman yesterday that we're going to be having on the podcast. We may, in fact, even kick this series off because she has such an in-depth, very powerful story. She's been through hell and back. So to capture all these phases, it could be even more appealing on a story level than an educational level. But these individuals that are made out to be their own issues and mental, right? It's not them. It's 100% not them. There is a dang spiral key with co-infections wreaking havoc on their body and neurological function. And I'm proof, and this lady's proof, and so many individuals that have actually broke out into health from their chronic Lyme illness, disease, bioweapon, man created. Freaking, we got to stop that. We got to go after them. We got to shut that down. What are we waiting for? There's so many threats. But lo and behold, when you address the actual issue and you eradicated enough of the viral load of this freaking bioweapon disease, the narcissism pretty much diminished. The mental diminished, gained peace, so many things. So it wasn't them. Are some people actually, if you did everything, still potentially mentally off and need other assistance? Yeah, I imagine there's some. But I believe it to be a minuscule percentage of us that it wouldn't even be that significant of an ordeal. And we could potentially really hone in and find great solutions for them. Man, I just want us all to achieve the greatest version of ourselves. Like, what are we freaking waiting for? Let's go. This is a fun deep dive. This is important. And there's lots of other topics This is just the tip of the iceberg. Sorry, Dr. Phil. Let's continue. I'm rude and cutting you off like we're communicating here, right?
Somebody has a phobia, anxiety, you can deal with that, and it's got a very good prognosis. Personality disorders don't have the best prognosis because in the individual's eyes, what they're doing is working for them. And so their belief is, why fix what ain't broke? A narcissist doesn't respond well in part because they don't see a problem.
Wow.
They think they're special. They think they're unique. They think they got it going on. They live in a fantasy world in which they are the top dog. They are the unique, entitled, special individual. So what is there to fix? It's the rest of you that have the problem.
Right.
Catch up. Get your game together. I don't have the problem. You have the problem. So you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Y'all have heard me say that.
That's so powerful right there. I think we kind of hit that nail pretty hard earlier. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. Acknowledgement is key. If an individual or a narcissist truly just can't acknowledge, then, and you do have love for that individual, then it may just be taking all those steps on the health side of things that we covered and then the spiritual side of things and report back. There's crazy breakthrough. But they got to take their life serious. That's a question that you should ask them. Do you genuinely value this existence? And if you do, and they have a heavy load of fast foods and a heavy load of alcohol and substances and things of that nature, and it's like, well, what are you doing? To where it's negatively impacting, bringing down their health. That would be a great place to start.
Narcissist is not going to acknowledge that they have a problem. So why would they have a to-do list? And the answer is they wouldn't. They don't. They don't have a to-do list. Most personality disorders don't have a to-do list because they think what they're doing is protecting them, working for them, getting them what they want. So if you're not going to change them, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to have to learn to deal with them. You're going to have to learn to not allow yourself to be sucked down by these people, to not get into their ego suck hole where you just get pulled down into this dark, bottomless pit.
That's so important because now that would be impacting your health and you're not going to be helpful to them or anyone, or it could actually be damaging to yourself. Yeah, and I want to minimize that for as many people as we can. Education, knowledge, it's good.
Where you cannot ever do enough to make these people happy. And the first thing I want you to do is establish some boundaries and recognize it's not your job to fix them. You couldn't fix them if it was your job. And you cannot let them have the power to determine how you feel about who you are.
You couldn't fix them if it was your job. And that last bit was so powerful. I wonder if I can get it replayed here.
Guys, it's not your job to fix them. You couldn't fix them if it was your job. And you cannot let them have the power to determine how you feel about who you are.
That is huge. You cannot allow them to abuse you.
If you give them the power to determine your self-worth in a relationship, whether it's romantic or as a family member or at work, whatever the situation, if you give them the power to determine your validation, your self-worth, I promise you, you're going to lose because they have to put you down in order for them to feel better.
It just breaks my heart that evil's been so effective in this existence to create this type of existence for an individual to live so selfishly to so many others' detriment. And my heart goes out to those that deal with the abuse.
It's what I call leveling. They either have to build themselves up so they feel equal to or superior, or they have to shoot you down so they don't think you've got anything over on them.
Wow.
That's leveling. They can't be in a one down position ever. So they always have to, in some way, keep you from having any advantage. And if you feel good about yourself, if you are at peace with yourself, if you think you're in touch with your authentic self, if you have a good sense of self-worth, a good definition of self, they can't suffer that.
Ooh.
Because it gives you a sense of power and peace that they just can't endure. So they have to take that away from you. They have to tear that down.
Wow.
You cannot let that happen. So
I just want to allow those words to sink in. He's got such a calming demeanor. He's actually pretty good at what he does, isn't he? But you cannot let that happen. You are the only you. You are a gift to this world. You have so many gifts from God. You can't allow another defective mortal to hinder your light, your purpose. You cannot allow that to happen.
that's why I say you've got to set up a boundary, and you cannot take the bait, and you cannot be the bait.
Oh boy.
And let me tell you what I mean by that. These people are going to say things that anybody would find offensive. They're going to violate your rights. And it's not just being assertive. Assertiveness is when someone acts in a way to protect their own rights, but they do it without stepping on anyone else's rights. Aggressiveness is when people assert their rights and they trample all over someone else's rights.
Wow.
That's what a narcissist does. They do it by gaslighting. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, get out your fire extinguisher because you're going to get gaslit.
Oh, wow.
They are going to talk to you in such a way that anything that goes wrong is your fault. And anything that they do is your fault.
Wow.
You're going to hear phrases. I mentioned a few of them before. I didn't say that. I'm not mad. It's not that big a deal. Why are you being so sensitive? Why are you blowing this all out of proportion? What is wrong with you? And it all keeps coming back to what's wrong with you. And they're happy to answer that question. You're too sensitive. That's the gaslighting phrases you're going to hear. And if you don't have a boundary, you're going to take that bait and start questioning yourself whether or not, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. But what do I want you to do? I want you to remember this conversation that we're having right now. I told you this was going to be a little different, that I just wanted it to be a conversation. And I want you to remember when this happens, you know what? When I was on my walk and I was listening to Dr. Phil in my earbuds, this is exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah. Like, absorb that. Please. Don't be prey. Don't enable. But he actually, bringing up earbuds there in the end, actually gives me another thought because we've touched on it. Frequencies are legit. There's good ones out there. There's bad ones out there. Earbuds. Let's just recap. I have a testimony on earbuds. We will do the really simplified version. We actually measured my phone output, my earbuds output. My earbuds output was higher than my phone. As a former contractor, swinging hammers, I couldn't imagine going back to cords. It was even a hazard. to get snagged, right? Even threading them through the shirt and gymming and things of that. Anyway, and I was constantly at that time listening to Audible books and then started transitioning into listening to podcasts. I found more value to even podcasts than audiobooks. It's crazy. I was dealing with these intense migraines. Now, note, I'm dealing with heavy viral loads of Lyme disease at that point. So my system was more, I was struggling. My body was struggling. Well, I got enough of the information. I was like, you know what? I'll set them down. I'll buy a set of cords again, and I'll just try it for a week. I tried it for a week, and my headaches, migraines, debilitating migraines, pretty much diminished. So I went another week. They even lessened more. And to this day, I will never wear an earbud. I had more than $1,000 worth of earbuds on my person. I couldn't even imagine gifting them to anybody at that point. I literally threw them away. So that's another thing that could be impacting us on a neurological level, a cellular level, whether you're in fact getting those migraines or seeing any impacts or not. It could be impacting you, impacting your sleep, your like inflammation in your body, which could create irritability, which could create a fight or flight response, which also could create these type of character traits where people just don't show up with the proper empathy and patience out of love for people in their lives. We need to get proper sleep. Sleep is crucial. So you got to minimize signals. Put airplane mode in your phone at night. Or if you have to have it on, do not place it next to your bed, next to your head, frying you all freaking night. At minimum, put it 15 feet away. You notate the difference it has for you. Maybe even consider shutting your Wi-Fi modems and things of that nature off while you sleep. Resituate all these smart devices that are putting out these signals to where at least you have a healthy habitat where you lay your head at night. You know what? I'm going to report being up in the wilderness and I'm able to shut everything down. I don't even have AC current going on when I'm sleeping. There's only DC. My sleep scores are substantially, I am actually for the first time in a long time back in the 90s, which is optimal. I'd venture to say one of these nights I'll freaking hit 100 and I feel very well rested. And that is just, it's so important. Well, thank you, Dr. Phil. Great to have you on the podcast. Let's dive in. Now, you can't make this up. I just flipped the page earlier to make sure the bookmark, so I wasn't rereading things. And this is just so powerful. Silence in the 1 minute prayers is the title. Goodness, silence, ignorance. For it is God's will that by doing good, you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish men. For it is God's will that by doing good, you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish men. That's powerful. 1 Peter 2:15. The prayer reads, God, the words spoken in haste by another person seem to have such an impact on me. So true. When a person throws around harsh words in a careless manner, help me see that it is usually ignorance or a lack of attention and not evil behind the recklessness. God, my security is in you. I do not need the validation of other people. Let me turn my concern into prayers for that person's well-being. May I act out a living prayer by responding to strong words with gentle kindness. Wow. And potentially healthy boundaries. I mean, the Jesus is calling. We need guidance. And then lastly, you won't want to miss what I'm going to share in the Bible. More references. Let's see. August 15th. I am the God of all time, and I'm not. Okay. I'm just reading it as it reads, so you can apply it just by the way. Of all time and all that is, seek me, not only in morning quietness, but consistently throughout the day. Do not let unexpected problems distract you from my peace. Instead, talk with me about everything and watch confidently to see what I will do. Adversity need not to interrupt your communication with me when things go wrong. You tend to react as if you're being punished. Instead of this negative response, try to view difficulties as a blessing in disguise. Make me your refuge by pouring out your heart to me, trusting in me at all times. Amen. I'm truly grateful for all my challenges, as tough as they may seem in that moment and overbearing. God is the only way to give you that lens of strength, peace, clarity, of enjoyment, even amongst some challenges, I tell you. And only the more you dive in, the more resolve you gain, the more faith you gain, the easier it in fact becomes. Doesn't mean the challenges become less frequent or they could even become larger challenges, but it could become easier and easier with more faith. 3 scripture references here: Psalm 55:17, Psalm 32:6, and Psalm 62:8. All right, and then we'll wrap things up. So as I was looking in the Bible regarding today's episode, humility just popped out. So I'm going to give you some scripture references on humility. And these are extremely powerful. I challenge you to look them up and get your nose into the Bible. There is great peace to opening this book. And it's our greatest tool, in a sense. God humbles us for our own good. Deuteronomy 8:16. God hears the prayers of the humble. 2 Chronicles 7:14. God saves those who are humble. Psalm 18:27. God preserves the lives of humble people. Psalm 147:6. Those who are humble become wise. Proverbs 11:2. God cares for the humble. Isaiah 66:2. God will exalt the humble. Luke 18:14. Be humble in dealing with others. Philippians 2:1-11. That's an important one. Humble yourself before God. James 4:10. Once again, I'm kind of speechless in ending this episode. Like that just filled my cup. I don't know how else to explain it. Why walk around with little in your glass or be thirsty when your cup could be overflowing? So once again, I'm grateful for this experience. I'm grateful for the challenges this podcast has posed. It's been a great educational, learning, growth experience for myself. And I know there's only more to be had. And I appreciate you joining me on this journey. I only hope and pray that it is in ways touching your heart in similar manner or in similar ways. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for supporting this podcast. Thank you for sharing it, liking it, following and commenting, just everything we could do place to whatever impact we can. And some of you have really seized that. And I'm just so grateful. There's some talking about gratitude. I'm extremely grateful for our affiliations. We got Patriot Mobile, the only Christian conservative mobile network out there, period. And they're doing a lot of great things. A lot of our listeners have checked it out. Frankly, not enough of us have taken that action. And I just challenge you, like, go to their webpage, see what they're about. Who wouldn't want to get behind supporting a company like that? The simple fact it could benefit you personally, financially, even cellular wise and protection and privacy wise. It's so important that we start pulling our money away from evil and putting it towards companies that have similar morals, values, and interests as we, the people, have. There's a lot of scary things going on in this world, folks. Preparedness is really important. I'm grateful for American reserves. As I was looking at this bucket, let's call it a tote. It's a bucket of sorts. And I was looking at a 30-day supply. I'm like, that's not much. Think of how fast time flies. And there's great threats, EMP threats. I mean, we don't know. We obviously know what they did in 2020, what they're willing to do. And there's the rumors of wars, and it's looking scary. I don't want any of you to go hungry. And 30 days isn't very long. So I want you to actually consider getting a few months supply for everyone in your family. But check out American Reserves. You can click on the link below. When you enter unmuzzled in the checkout, you will get an additional 10% off any of their other discounts. So be sure to check them out. Now, to protect all your other investments, I find EMP Shield to be the wisest, the most important dollar for dollar investment you could do today. Do not be left stranded away from your family, alone, or even in your home, and you lost your steel mule to relocate to a safe space. At minimum, get one on a vehicle per family. At minimum. If you could afford to get them on them all, get them on them all. They're very affordable considering what they're providing. Get one for your home. Get one for your solar investment. I'm going to make note right now. I'm going to call them because I now want one for this trailer because I have the solar investment, the batteries, everything, the studio. I've now put enough into this that it just financially makes sense to get one to protect all of this from EMP, all three wavelengths, lightning strikes, even solar flares. Some things to help our health and wellness. We mentioned bond charge, 15% off. Click the link below. But if you want to enhance your detoxifying your body of metals and forever chemicals, check out Masterpiece. That tincture is amazing. I keep getting positive feedback from folks that are checking out Unchained Wellness. So if you're in Arizona, be sure to give them a call. See what they're all about. If you mention Unmuzzled Chat, they will give you a free, sauna session and cold plunge, but a great family-owned clinic that is really on the cutting edge with a bunch of technology and life hacks. Other than that, folks, come on now. Truth is truly the new hate speech. It's really unfortunate. When you stand on this, you get a lot of that hate. We must not fear, and we must start standing for truth. This shirt is from Black Eagle Apparel. They have so much patriotic apparel. They also exclusively have a Unmuzzled Chat t-shirt, and we would appreciate if you would go and get your Unmuzzled Chat t-shirt. Just be sure to mention Unmuzzled Chat in the promo code. It will be compounding to any other discounts. If you spin the wheel and get 20% off, then you input the 10%. Now you got 30% off a freaking the best shirts on the market. They're next level t-shirts. They're the best. They don't shrink. They fit great. They're just the right thickness. I love them. Anyway, it's a mouthful. I don't want to go. It's cool to be here and be a part of this. I just am doing my best to show up. I know I'm showing up with a lot of flaws. Forgive me. To anyone that I have insulted or anything, it has not been my intention. I genuinely want to see the betterment on individual levels and for the greater part of humanity in this world we live in. And that is my intent, to have a positive impact. So I do genuinely apologize if I've, in fact, had that shown up with the right intention, yet had a bad outcome. I could do better at that, and I'm seeking to do better. And I hope we all grasp just that on an individual level. With that, God bless you. God bless America. Until next time, take care.